Welcome to today's video. The materials you're going to need today are alizarin crimson. I'm using a green paint today rather than mixing, just for ease, and I'm going to use a sap green, but any sort of dark green colour is absolutely fine. I'm also going to be using burnt sienna, so just 3 colours today. I'm going to use 2 paintbrushes, both round, a number 6 and a number 4. I've drawn my Christmas trees already on my watercolour paper, and I've provided in the link below a PDF of that drawing if you wanted to trace that down on your sheet of paper. So just click the link, download it and print it at home, and then trace it through to your paper. As you can see, my paper is secured to a thick piece of card, just using simple masking tape. 2 other items you're going to need today are art masking fluid. I'm using one by Darling Rowney here, and I'm also going to show you iridescent medium to create a really pretty effect. To apply the masking fluid, I'm using a ruling pen, which you turn the dial just like this, and twisting that little knob on the top just closes and opens the gap between the 2 prongs, and that dictates how thick a mark you make with the masking fluid, but I'll show you that in a second. You'll also need 2 pots of water, one kept clean for mixing your paints and one to clean your brushes, and really handy to have some kitchen paper towel to wipe your brushes onto, and maybe possibly a swatch, a piece of watercolour card that's scrap, just to swatch your colours on. So let's get started. The first thing, if I make my station clear here, so I have, as you can see, drawn my trees quite darkly. I would recommend you don't draw them this dark. I don't really want to see the lines once I've completed my painting, but I just wanted to make sure on camera that you could see them clearly. So I'm going to quickly take a putty rubber and just rub those lines, making them lighter just so that I can see them. Just want the outline showing, just as a guide for me really. Okay, that's super. So the first thing I'm going to do is I'm going to use the crimson colour, and I'm going to fill in that background. I've tried to make the tape as even on the edge as possible, so that's going to create a nice white border around your image. So taking my number 6 round brush, just wetting the bristles a little, and as you can see I've already mixed my crimson paint up in my palette. And remember, when you're mixing, just add a little bit of paint at a time. Obviously we're just using it straight from the palette here, so it's no problem mixing this one, but I will say that you want quite a bit of paint in this mixture, so you also want to mix up enough to cover the entire background of this image. So just make sure you've got enough mixed up, because the last thing you want to do is rush to mix some more if you run out. Starting at the top and working my way around the image, I'm just loading my brush up and putting the paint down. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to dab a bit more water on my brush now. So I want a little bit of variation in this background wash. So now I'm carrying on. Now I've got a little bit more water on my brush, and I am dragging that paint down, and it will be slightly lighter where I've added the water. And a little bit more water again. You may want to pre-wet your paper if you struggle to paint quickly, because as we go here, the slower you paint, the quicker your paint will dry, and you're going to end up with some lines in your paint where the edges have dried before you've completed the wash. So to help you with that, to prevent that, just simply wet the paper with clean water first of all, and a clean brush, and that will get you started. That will give you a little bit more time to complete your painting. I'm just going to turn this round. I struggle to get straight edges sometimes, so to help, I just turn the image just to speed things up a little bit and make it as easy on me as possible. So you can do the same. So I am just going around my image as quickly as I can. We can sharpen up edges afterwards if there are some untidy edges, that's fine. As you can see, I'm running low on paint, so I'm going to have to use a little bit more water to extend the area that it covers. Okay. But hopefully I shall get some nice watercolour blooms. We've got some blooming happening at the top there already, which is lovely. So what we're after is not a flat wash here. We want something with a little bit of texture, some areas that are different to others, and it gives us some interest. If you want a perfectly flat wash, then I do recommend that you paint the entire background with water first, and then you will have ample time. Just going to create another bloom up here with a bit of water. See, the top has dried now, so what I'm actually going to do is re-wet that area with a bit of paint, just to darken that section a little bit. I'm going to go into my crimson, get some thicker paint on my brush, dab it down into this top section. I might have gone off camera there, sorry. I'm working really quickly here, as you can see, and I'm dabbing down a little bit more paint. Can do the same at the bottom here, a little bit more dark paint, dabbing down on the surface. Because this is really wet down the bottom, the paint just pulls from the brush. As soon as you touch the tip of your brush down, it wants to splay out and move across that damp surface, which is really pretty. So we're creating this lovely textured effect. So everybody's painting is going to be very different here, depending on how quickly you're painting, how much it dries, etc, etc, how thick your paint is. No one's finishing painting will be the same. I've missed a section here, just noticed, so I'm going to quickly paint that in and just tidy up some of those edges there. And the same just here. Some texture down on the surface there. So if you wet it first with clean water, you can take your time a bit more than I have. There we go. And I'm now going to let that fully dry before we move on to the next section. Welcome back. Now that the background has dried nicely, you can see that we've got some beautiful texture going on, some what we call watercolour blooms all across the surface there, which is so pretty. I am going to take the masking fluid next and my ruling pen and show you how to create some patterns on the surface of those trees, acting as a resist before we paint them green. So off camera I already drew stripes on the left hand tree and lots of little tiny dots or baubles, if you like, all of different sizes on this right hand tree there. In the centre I'm going to do little textures. If I show you with my pencil, lots of little sort of lines too, as if you can see the pine needles on the Christmas tree. So that's my idea for the central one. Now, as I said before briefly, the way you control the thickness of the line that you create with the fluid is by turning this little dial here, and if you turn it one way it opens the gap between those two pointed ends, or if you turn it the other way it actually makes that gap smaller. So the smaller the gap, the smaller the mark you make with the masking fluid. So I want mine quite small, so I'm tightening it up. It's now only that wide, and I'm dipping my tool into the masking fluid, and I am just making some little marks, and you just need to reapply the fluid as you go, as it starts to run out. I'm just touching it to the surface of the paper and then dragging the tool down towards myself, and it leaves a little line of masking fluid on the surface. So you can do any kinds of patterns here that you want. It's entirely up to you, but I thought these are quite fun little marks to make. Just wipe off the excess on the side of the pot so you don't get any massive blobs. You can splatter with masking fluid as well to create random marks. You can use different tools to apply it. You don't need a ruling pen to do this. You could use a small brush to do that. However, you've got to be really careful because it does ruin the bristles. This stuff turns to a rubber consistency, and it's very, very difficult to get out of your brush once you've used it. So just bear that in mind. Maybe use a very old brush and keep it just for applying masking fluid. You could use cocktail stick to make scratchy marks. You could use the side of a credit card or a piece of torn off card to create lines. So now all you do is just wipe off that excess masking fluid from the tool. I'm going to open up, can you see there, opening it up, and I can get inside with my paper towel now and just wipe off all that excess there, just to clean that up. And always remember, pop your lid back on your masking fluid because you don't want it to dry out. So now what we have to do here is completely let that dry. It take about 10-15 minutes maybe, and then we can paint over the top. So see you in a few minutes. Okay, so I have allowed these marks to dry, and the way to test that they're ready is just to place your finger down on the surface, and it will feel a little bit sticky or tacky, but as long as it's not coming off on your finger, it's ready to go. Now what I want to show you here is a little tester I did earlier. Now half of this sample of crimson has got the iridescent medium painted over the top. So you can see, if I turn it in the light, you can see how it shimmers. So what the plan is, we're going to use this dark green, so I'm using the sap green, but you can use any green you like, or mix some with the French ultramarine blue and a bit of lemon yellow. You can get a nice dark green that way. We're going to paint the green over the top of these marks. Again, allow that to dry and paint a coat of the iridescent medium over the top to get that lovely shimmer. So let's go ahead and do that. So I'm actually going to use the number 4 brush this time. My bristles are just damp, and I'm picking up the lovely dark green that I've mixed. Now again, I can draw through that, and my brush is leaving marks. So that shows that the mixture I've created here is a little bit thicker than normal, and that's because I want a really strong contrast between, not only between the red and the green, but also the white of the paper when we remove the masking fluid and this dark green. So you'll get much better result if you mix a nice thick consistency paint. So that just means less water and more pigment, so more paint. We're just going to draw with the tip of the brush, drag the paint down from the top all the way down to the bottom of the tree. So this is really easy to do, folks. Make sure you get a nice thick coat of paint down. I'll speed this up so that the video doesn't get too long for you. So now that the green paint has dried completely, that's quite important, I'm going to take the iridescent medium that I'm going to use. This one's a Winsor & Newton product, and I'm going to take a clean brush. I'm going to use the number 6 sable brush. I'm just going to make sure it's completely clean because we don't want to contaminate the bottle. It's got a little bit of red still on there, so give it a thorough clean. Make sure that nothing's coming off on the paper towel. And it's a really simple job. You just dip the brush into the bottle and paint all across the top. Now we're doing this before removing the masking fluid, so that the lines that we create when we remove the masking fluid are the white of the paper, and that will really stand out against these dark green shimmery lines. Welcome back. So I've used the hairdryer to dry the final coat of iridescent medium that we used, and I've actually rubbed away the masking fluid from these two trees. I'm just going to show you how to do it on this one on the left here. Masking fluid balls up into bits of it's like a rubber consistency, and that's what prevents the paint from going beneath it. I have found that it's a little bit tough to get off, and I think that's because we've gone over it with a medium. So if you struggle to rub it away with your finger, just by doing that, it's a good trick just to use the tip of a scalpel or a Stanley knife, something like that, and you can remove the masking fluid a little bit easier that way. So you just go across the entire thing and remove all that masking fluid. What you could do is you could remove the masking fluid alternatively before you apply the medium on the top, because that's kind of giving it a coating that is a bit more stubborn to remove. So it might be an idea to remove the masking fluid before you paint the iridescent medium on top. And you can see that these stripes are being revealed underneath. Now I'm using a different paper to the one I normally use, and I found that you can see some of the green paint, just tap that down, some of the green paint has actually seeped beneath my masking fluid here. I'm not too fussed about that, but I haven't had that happen in the past, so I'm not entirely sure why that's happened, but I think I need to do some experimenting on the paper that I usually use. But here we have it, lovely Christmas themed Christmas trees in watercolour using a few different techniques. We've got that gorgeous shimmer on the surface of those trees there. We've got this beautiful texture in the background using the watercolour bloom effect, and hopefully you're really happy with the painting you produced with me today. I hope you've enjoyed the session. If you think you've learned something from my class today, then please press like for my video, and if you think you'd like to watch some more tutorials with me in the future, then subscribe to my channel and also click the bell icon there as well, and you'll be notified every time I upload a new watercolour class. Okay everybody, take care, see you soon, bye bye.